The sun was setting over the human settlement, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. The air was thick with anticipation as the crowd gathered in the open square. They had heard the rumors, whispers that an alien warrior, one of the fiercest in the galaxy, had come to challenge them. No one knew what to expect, but everyone was curious. The alien woman, a towering figure with gleaming green skin and sharp, piercing eyes, stood in the center of the square. Her armor was decorated with strange symbols, and her posture was one of confidence. She surveyed the humans around her, her gaze cold and unwavering. She had seen many worlds, defeated many warriors, and now she had come to Earth to prove once again that her species was the strongest. "You humans," she said in a voice that carried over the crowd, "are nothing but weaklings hiding behind your walls and technology. I have come to show you the true meaning of power." She raised a hand, her fingers curling into a fist as she looked around. "I challenge any of you to a duel. Step forward, and I will prove how easily you can be defeated." The crowd was silent for a moment, unsure of what to do. Fear was written on many faces, but there was something else too: curiosity. The alien woman was known for her strength, and no one wanted to face her. But then, from the back of the crowd, a figure stepped forward. It was a human, a soldier, no different from the others who had fought in the wars of Earth, yet there was something about him that stood out. He was tall, his face hard with determination, but there was no fear in his eyes. He had heard the stories of the alien warriors, and he had heard the challenge, and now he would answer it. He walked forward, past the surprised whispers of the crowd. The alien woman watched him, an amused smirk crossing her face. "Are you sure about this, human?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. "I don't want to embarrass you in front of your people." The soldier didn't respond. He simply stood before her, ready for whatever came next. The crowd was holding its breath, waiting for the first strike, but it didn't come immediately. The alien woman studied the soldier for a moment. He looked strong, but not extraordinary. He didn't have the natural advantages she had: the speed, the strength, the skill honed over years of combat. He was human, just another mortal. She had no doubt this would be an easy victory. "Very well," she said, her voice colder now. "Prepare yourself." The soldier didn't flinch. He took his stance, his feet planted firmly on the ground, his eyes locked on her. The alien woman raised her weapon, a sleek, curved blade that shimmered in the fading light. The crowd gasped as she held it aloft, ready to strike. The challenge had begun. What the alien woman didn't know, however, was that this human was different from anyone she had faced before. And this fight, this duel, would not go as she expected. The alien woman's mind raced as she circled the human soldier. Every time she thought she had him, he managed to slip away. Every time she tried to overwhelm him with her speed and power, he adapted. She was no longer certain how much longer she could keep this up. Her arms were starting to feel the strain, and her breathing, though steady, had become more labored than she'd like to admit. She had faced enemies of all shapes and sizes, across countless worlds. She had fought against creatures twice her size, and even entire armies, but she had never faced an opponent like this. A human, a being she had dismissed as weak and inferior, was now proving to be her equal in ways she hadn't expected. And with every block, every dodge, and every calculated strike, he was pushing her further into unfamiliar territory. The soldier's movements were not just quick. They were controlled, each one done with purpose, as if he was always one step ahead of her. His eyes never wavered, never showed fear, and she hated that. She had underestimated him, and that mistake was now making her question everything she knew about combat. For the first time since the fight began, the alien woman hesitated. She stopped circling him, her stance momentarily faltering. The soldier, sensing the brief pause, raised his guard, watching her closely. He knew she was more dangerous than ever, but he also knew this moment of doubt could be his chance. He took a step forward, moving with deliberate slowness. He didn't need to speak. His body language said it all. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't backing down. The alien woman's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her grip on her blade. She could feel the weight of it now, the toll the fight was taking on her. She had come here expecting to crush this human, to show him and his people that they were nothing. But now, she felt the weight of her own arrogance pressing down on her. "You're still standing," she muttered, almost to herself. She wasn't sure if it was admiration or frustration that made her voice shake. "I didn't think you could last this long." The soldier didn't respond. He just stood there, waiting for her to make the next move. It was a silent challenge in itself. He wasn't forcing her into action, but he was daring her to continue. It was the kind of pressure only a seasoned warrior could handle, and the alien woman's pride was still strong enough to keep her going. But deep inside, she knew something was changing. The confidence she had carried into the fight had begun to crack. She was starting to question the outcome. She had expected to defeat this human easily, but the longer the fight went on, the more she realized that it wasn't going to be that simple. She charged again, faster than before, but this time, she wasn't sure if it was the right choice. The soldier met her head-on, blocking her blade once more. The clash of metal echoed through the square, and for a brief moment, they were locked in a struggle for control. But the alien woman's hesitation was enough for the soldier to take advantage. He pushed forward, driving his rod against her blade, forcing her off balance. She stumbled backward, her foot slipping slightly on the dirt beneath her. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind her of one simple truth. This fight was far from over. The doubt she felt now was dangerous. And the human soldier, despite everything, was still standing, still watching, still waiting for his chance. Her heart pounded in her chest. Could she still win? The question lingered in her mind, making her doubt her own abilities for the first time. And that was something she had never allowed herself to do before. The alien woman's eyes narrowed as she sized up her opponent. The human soldier stood tall, but he wasn't anything special in her eyes. He didn't have the massive build of the alien warriors she was used to fighting. He wasn't as fast or as powerful. In her mind, this battle would be over in seconds. The soldier's expression remained calm, but his muscles were taut, ready for action. He knew he was up against something far more dangerous than anything he'd ever faced. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, he didn't back down. He had fought in wars, seen horrors, and survived against enemies far bigger than him. He wasn't afraid of this alien woman, even if she seemed invincible to everyone else. The crowd was silent, all eyes fixed on the two combatants. The alien woman swung her blade through the air, testing its weight, and then glanced at the human with a smirk. "You still want to do this?" she taunted, her voice dripping with arrogance. "I've fought creatures far stronger than you." The soldier said nothing, his eyes never leaving hers. He didn't need to say anything. His confidence was in his stance, in the way he held his ground. He had no illusions about the challenge ahead, but he knew that if he stayed focused and didn't panic, he might have a chance. The alien woman took a step forward, her boots clicking against the ground. Without warning, she charged at the soldier with surprising speed. Her blade was a flash of steel in the fading light, aimed straight for his chest. She moved like lightning, quick and powerful, expecting him to be too slow to react. But the soldier was ready. He stepped aside just in time, his movements smooth and precise. The alien woman's blade missed him by inches, the sharp hiss of the metal cutting through the air. She grunted in frustration, pivoting quickly to face him again. "You're faster than I thought," she said, her voice barely containing a hint of annoyance. She had expected to overwhelm him immediately, but instead, he was proving to be far more skilled than she anticipated. The soldier didn't respond. He was too focused on the fight, on finding an opening. His eyes tracked every move the alien woman made, waiting for her to make a mistake. He didn't think he could overpower her, but he could outlast her. He could use her speed and aggression against her. The alien woman's expression shifted from smug confidence to something sharper, more calculating. She had expected to defeat him quickly and move on to her next challenge, but now she found herself with an opponent who wasn't backing down. The human's eyes were filled with a quiet determination, and it unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. "You're stronger than I expected, human," she said, tightening her grip on her blade. "But you'll still fall before me." The soldier only gave a slight nod, his focus never wavering. He knew she was underestimating him, and that was something he could use to his advantage. The alien woman was fast, but so was he. The real test would be whether he could outsmart her. The battle was just beginning, and neither of them knew it yet, but the outcome was far from certain. The alien woman stood silently, her shoulders slumped with the weight of her realization. The soldier had won. She had never imagined a human would be the one to defeat her, but now, standing there in the center of the square, she couldn't deny it. She had been beaten, not by strength, but by strategy, resilience, and something she had underestimated: the human spirit. The soldier didn't approach her right away. He stood a few paces away, watching her carefully, as if waiting for her next move. The crowd, which had been on edge since the fight began, now seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. No one had expected this outcome. The alien warrior, who had come to Earth with arrogance and pride, was now standing defeated, and it was by the hand of a human. For a long moment, the alien woman said nothing. She looked down at her blade, still lying on the ground just beyond her reach, then at the soldier who had defeated her. Her chest tightened with something she hadn't felt before: respect. It was strange, almost foreign to her, but she couldn't ignore it. This human had not only survived her attacks, but he had turned the tide of the battle in his favor. "You don't have to be so quiet about it," she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "You've beaten me. I never thought I would be saying this, but you were right." The soldier took a step forward, his face expressionless, but there was a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He had seen the pride in her earlier, and now he saw something different. She wasn't broken, but she was changed. Her defeat had done something to her. It had stripped away the arrogance, the belief that humans were beneath her. And in its place, there was something more real, a sense of acknowledgement for the strength she had once underestimated. "You're a warrior, too," the soldier said, his voice steady. "You fought well. It was a hard battle." The alien woman shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips despite the bitterness of her situation. "I did fight well, didn't I? But in the end, it wasn't my strength that mattered. It was your determination, your ability to adapt. I thought I was the superior warrior. I thought you were just another weak human. But now I see, your strength is not in your muscles, but in your will." The soldier nodded, acknowledging her words without boasting. He hadn't done this for glory, nor to prove anything to anyone. He had simply done what he needed to do: survive, adapt, and learn from the challenge. The alien woman reached down to pick up her blade, her movements slow, almost deliberate. "You have earned my respect," she said, her voice now firm again, though there was no longer any arrogance in it. "I came here to show you your place in the galaxy, but instead, you've shown me something different." The soldier didn't speak, but his eyes softened. The battle was over, and in the end, it had led them to an unexpected understanding. She took a deep breath and stood tall once more, though there was no longer a hint of superiority in her stance. "I came here thinking you were beneath me, but now I know better. I won't forget this." The crowd watched in stunned silence as the alien woman, defeated but dignified, turned and walked away. The soldier stood there, watching her go, knowing this would not be the last time he saw her. But the fight had changed them both, and in that quiet moment, he realized that sometimes true victory wasn't about defeating an enemy, it was about understanding them. The alien woman had learned something about humans today, and so had he. It wasn't just about strength, it was about willpower, heart, and the ability to adapt in the face of overwhelming odds. And in the end, that was what truly mattered. The alien woman's breath was heavy as she knelt on the ground, the pain in her side still sharp. She had underestimated the human soldier at every turn, and now, for the first time in her life, she felt something unfamiliar creeping into her chest. Doubt. She had faced hundreds of enemies, each stronger, faster, and more deadly than the last, yet none had ever made her question her strength. But this human, with his calm, unwavering resolve, had done just that. He had not only matched her in skill, but had started to outlast her. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she could win. Her mind raced. What had gone wrong? She had been so sure of herself. She had believed that victory was inevitable, that a human couldn't possibly challenge an alien warrior like her. But now she wasn't so sure. Her body ached, and the weight of her own blade felt heavier with each passing moment. The soldier stood before her, the rod still gripped tightly in his hands. His expression was calm, almost too calm. He didn't seem tired, and his eyes never wavered from hers. The crowd around them was completely silent, watching the battle unfold. They had expected the alien woman to win easily, but now they were witnessing something far more extraordinary. An unexpected fight, and an alien warrior being pushed to her limits by a human. The alien woman tried to steady herself, pushing the pain aside. She had to finish this. She had to prove that she was stronger, that she could overcome this human who dared challenge her. With a grunt, she pushed herself to her feet. The crowd stirred, watching her carefully, but the soldier made no move to advance. He just watched her, waiting. She felt a flicker of annoyance at his patience, but she didn't let it show. She charged again, this time with more fury, her blade cutting through the air. The soldier moved quickly, sidestepping her strike with ease. She turned to face him, swinging again and again, each strike faster and more aggressive than the last. But still, the human was one step ahead. Every time she thought she had him cornered, he slipped away, his movements so smooth that it was like he was reading her mind. The alien woman's frustration mounted. She had expected this battle to be over long ago. She had expected the human to crumble, to beg for mercy, but instead, he was forcing her to fight harder than she had ever fought before. She attacked again, but this time, the soldier didn't just dodge. He parried her strike with his rod, and with a quick flick of his wrist, he knocked her blade from her hand. The alien woman froze, staring at him in disbelief. She had never once lost control of her weapon before, not like this. The soldier stepped forward, his eyes still steady. "Give up," he said simply, his voice calm but firm. "It's over." The alien woman's chest tightened as she stood there, staring at the human. Her blade was out of reach, and her body was drained from the fight. But there was something else, something deeper, gnawing at her. The human soldier wasn't just defeating her with strength. He was defeating her with patience, with strategy, and with a kind of quiet power she had never seen before. For the first time in the fight, she realized something. This human wasn't just surviving. He was learning, adapting, and making her his equal. And that realization hit her harder than any blow she had received. "You," she whispered, her voice hoarse, "you really don't give up." The soldier didn't reply. He simply lowered his rod and stepped back, waiting for her decision. For a long moment, the alien woman stood there, the weight of her pride pressing down on her. But then, with a deep breath, she slowly lowered her head. "I was wrong," she admitted, her voice steady, but filled with an unfamiliar humility. "You've won." The alien woman steadied herself, her feet digging into the ground. Her breaths were deep and heavy, but her eyes were focused, never leaving the soldier in front of her. She had made a mistake. She had underestimated him at every turn. And now, the human warrior was proving to be her equal, maybe even more than that. For the first time, she felt a twinge of uncertainty. The soldier was relentless, not rushing, not panicking, just patiently waiting for his moment. His calmness in the face of her attacks was something she had never experienced before. In her battles with other creatures, their fear or anger had always been evident, But not this human. He was different, and that difference was starting to frustrate her. She lunged forward again, faster this time, her blade aimed for the soldier's throat. But the soldier was prepared. He sidestepped her attack with a fluid motion, his body moving like a coiled spring. As she passed him, she felt a sharp tug at her side. He had managed to land a blow, though it was small. Still, it made her falter. The alien woman growled, spinning to face him, but the soldier was already in motion again, his rod raised and ready. His strike wasn't powerful, but it was precise, catching her off guard. She staggered back, momentarily disoriented by the speed of his counterattack. "You're quick," she said, her voice tight with frustration, but she could not hide the respect creeping into her words. "But speed alone won't win this." The soldier didn't reply. His face remained impassive, his body tense and ready. He wasn't overconfident. He knew the alien woman was still more powerful than he was. But now, with every move, he could feel her exhaustion building, her strikes growing more erratic. The longer the fight went on, the more the alien woman was revealing her weaknesses. She had underestimated him at the beginning, but now she was starting to realize the true nature of his resolve. For a brief moment, the alien woman paused, her eyes flicking to the crowd watching. She had never had an audience like this. Humans were supposed to cower in fear, not stand and cheer for one of their own. The doubt that had started to creep in was now deepening, and it felt like the entire weight of the universe was pressing down on her. She had to win, didn't she? She couldn't afford to fail. Not here, not in front of these humans. With a growl, she charged again, this time with even more force. She moved with everything she had, her blade cutting through the air. The soldier didn't flinch, his eyes locked onto her, watching every shift in her movement. This time, as she swung her blade down, he saw the opening he had been waiting for. Her overconfidence had led her to leave her left side unprotected. In a flash, the soldier ducked under her strike, and with all his strength, thrust the metal rod forward. The alien woman was forced to step back, the rod connecting with her midsection, knocking the wind from her lungs. It wasn't a fatal blow, but it was enough to push her off balance. She stumbled and fell to one knee, gasping for air, her hand clutching her side. The soldier stood over her, panting but determined. He knew this was his chance. The alien woman was down, and for the first time, it felt like the fight could actually be his. The crowd was silent, holding their breath. No one could believe what they were seeing. The alien warrior, the one who had claimed to be unbeatable, was now on the ground, struggling to catch her breath. The alien woman raised her eyes to meet the soldier's, a flicker of something new in her gaze, something she hadn't expected. Was it fear? No, it wasn't fear. It was respect. And maybe, just maybe, it was the first time she truly understood the power of humanity. "You're not like the others," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "You won't break." The soldier didn't speak. He simply stood, waiting for her next move. But in his heart, he knew the fight was far from over, and he was ready for whatever came next. The alien woman took a step back, her breath steadying as she assessed the human before her. Her side still ached from the blow he had landed, and the shock of it made her pause for just a moment longer than usual. She had been fighting for hours in different places, facing beings much stronger than this soldier. But this human, this soldier, was proving to be different. She clenched her fist around the hilt of her blade, her mind running through every technique she had been trained to use. This was no longer just a fight for victory. It was a test of her pride, and she would not lose to a human. With a flash of speed, the alien woman charged again, her movements a blur as she swung her blade toward the soldier's head. She had planned this one carefully, intending to catch him off guard. But instead of dodging, the soldier did something unexpected. He blocked her attack. His hand moved with precision, grabbing a nearby metal rod that had been discarded by the crowd. He used it to deflect the alien woman's blade, and the force of the strike sent a sharp clang through the air. The crowd gasped as they watched the human stand firm, holding the rod with both hands, his feet planted solidly on the ground. The alien woman stepped back, a look of surprise flashing across her face. The soldier hadn't just avoided her strike. He had countered it. It was not the action she had expected from someone of his kind. "Well," she said, her voice tight with frustration, "it seems you've learned something." The soldier didn't answer. His expression was focused, his breathing calm. He understood now that it wasn't just about evading her attacks. It was about outlasting her. The alien woman was powerful, yes, but she relied on speed and aggression. She didn't have the patience or the stamina to wear him down, and he would make sure she understood that. The alien woman circled around him, keeping her blade in front of her like a shield, studying him closely. She was calculating her next move, her mind racing through the possible options. He was quick, but he wasn't invincible. She could still win this. The soldier, meanwhile, kept his eyes locked on her. Every time she moved, he mirrored her, staying just a step ahead. The alien woman was fast, but he had learned to read her intentions. Her quick strikes were dangerous, but predictable. And now he was starting to understand how to turn her aggression into her weakness. Without warning, the alien woman lunged again, her blade aimed straight for the soldier's chest. But this time, the soldier didn't dodge. Instead, he spun to the side, using the metal rod to block her attack at the last possible moment. The force of the strike reverberated through the rod and up his arms, but he stood firm, refusing to move an inch. The alien woman snarled in frustration. She had thought she could break him, wear him down. But this human wasn't just avoiding her, he was adapting. And every time he blocked her strike, it made her more and more aware that this wasn't going to be the easy victory she had imagined. She paused, her gaze narrowing. For the first time since the fight had begun, the alien woman was unsure. She had always been confident in her strength, but this human warrior was making her question everything she knew. "You're stronger than you look," she admitted, though the words stung her pride. "But don't think you can win. I won't allow it." The soldier didn't respond. His grip tightened on the metal rod, his eyes never leaving hers. The fight wasn't over yet, and now he was starting to believe he could win. He had to keep pushing. The air between them seemed to crackle with tension as the two combatants sized each other up. The alien woman's eyes flashed with anger, her pride already bruised. She was not used to being challenged, let alone by a human. But the soldier, though calm, was not intimidated. He knew this fight would be difficult, but he was ready for it. The alien woman lunged again, her blade flashing in the air as she aimed for the soldier's side. She moved so quickly that for a moment, it looked like he wouldn't be able to dodge in time. But with a quick sidestep, the soldier avoided her attack, just barely, feeling the sharp air where the blade had swiped past him. The alien woman gritted her teeth, not willing to show any sign of weakness. She twirled the blade in her hand, adjusting her stance. "You're quick, human, but speed alone won't save you," she said, her voice steady but filled with underlying anger. She was used to crushing her opponents, not chasing them. The soldier didn't respond. He was too focused, his eyes locked on her every move. He understood that he couldn't match her in strength or speed. He had to be smarter. He had to wait for the right moment. She attacked again, this time a series of rapid strikes aimed at his torso and legs. Each swing was precise, designed to land a hit, but the soldier, though under pressure, reacted quickly. With each blow, he sidestepped, ducked, or blocked, his body moving with surprising agility for a human. For every powerful strike she made, he found a way to avoid it. It was like a dance, one that only he seemed to understand. The alien woman's eyes widened as she realized the human wasn't just dodging her blows. He was reading her every move. "Impressive," she muttered under her breath, her irritation growing. Her usual enemies would have been either knocked out by now or cowering in fear, but this soldier was neither. He didn't back down, and he wasn't slowing down either. The soldier knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. He needed to strike back, but every time he found an opening, The alien woman moved faster than he anticipated. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. Her strength was a challenge, but her speed was what made her dangerous. The crowd, which had been silent at first, now murmured among themselves. They watched in disbelief as the human soldier held his ground against the alien warrior. This was no longer a one-sided battle. It had become a fight of willpower, of strategy. The alien woman's attacks grew more aggressive, fueled by frustration. She moved even faster, trying to catch the human off guard. But the soldier's calmness never wavered. Every move he made seemed deliberate, each one carefully calculated. Finally, the soldier saw his chance. The alien woman, in her attempt to land another heavy blow, overextended just slightly. It was enough. With a swift motion, the soldier moved into the gap she had left open and struck out with a quick punch to her side. It wasn't a devastating blow, but it was enough to make her stumble. The alien woman hissed in pain and surprise, her footing unsteady for the first time. The crowd gasped, unable to believe their eyes. The soldier had landed a hit, and it wasn't by luck. The alien woman regained her balance and stepped back, eyes now narrowed with a mix of surprise and anger. She had underestimated him. And for the first time, she wasn't so sure of the outcome. "Not bad, human," she said, her voice tinged with respect, but also the sting of wounded pride. "But it will take more than that to defeat me." The soldier didn't reply. He was ready for the next move, and now he knew he had to keep the pressure on. The real fight was just beginning. The days that followed the battle were quieter than the soldier had expected. Word of the fight between the alien woman and the human warrior spread quickly across the settlement. People spoke of it with awe, and many came to see the soldier, their new hero, in a different light. He had faced a powerful alien and walked away victorious, not through brute force, but through patience, intelligence, and resilience. But despite the attention, the soldier felt a strange emptiness. He didn't want to be celebrated. He didn't want to be called a hero. He had fought because it was his duty. The real victory, he realized, was the change that had happened in the alien woman, and it was that thought that lingered in his mind day after day. He found himself walking through the square one evening, his thoughts drifting, when he saw her, the alien woman, standing just outside the settlement, as if she was waiting for something or someone. He approached her cautiously, unsure of what to expect. The last time they had met, she had walked away with a new understanding of humanity. But what had happened since then? The alien woman turned when she heard him approach, her expression calm, but not as distant as it had been before their fight. She was still the same warrior, strong and proud, but something had changed in her eyes. A softening, a quiet respect that hadn't been there before. "You came back," the soldier said, his voice hesitant. She nodded. "I wanted to speak with you. After the fight. I've been thinking a lot. About what you said. About strength and how we measure it." The soldier didn't say anything. He just stood there, listening, waiting for her to continue. "I was wrong," she said, her voice steady but thoughtful. "I thought I understood power. I thought it was about how fast you could strike, how hard you could hit. But now I see there's more to it. Power is about endurance, about understanding your limits and pushing past them. You showed me that." The soldier could feel a sense of relief. She wasn't just saying these words to save face. He could see that she had truly understood. It had taken time, but the alien woman had learned something that no victory could have taught her alone. "I didn't fight you to win," the soldier said quietly. "I fought because I believe I could. And I wanted you to see that humans are capable of more than you think. We might not be the strongest, but we have something that's just as important: determination." The alien woman gave him a long look, her eyes searching his face, as if she were looking for something deeper, something beyond just words. Finally, she spoke again. "Your kind is not what I thought it was," she said, her voice softer now. "I have seen many worlds, and I have seen many kinds of warriors. But I have never met someone like you, someone who fights with more than just their strength. You, you fight with your heart." The soldier felt a strange warmth at her words. It was a rare thing for a warrior like her to offer such praise, but he didn't take it as an empty compliment. He knew she meant it, and that, in itself, felt like a victory. "Maybe we all need to learn something new," he said, looking out at the horizon, where the last light of the setting sun was fading away. "Maybe we're all stronger than we think, but we just don't know how to show it." For a moment, neither of them spoke. They stood there, side by side, sharing a silence that was comfortable and full of understanding. The alien woman had come to Earth as a challenger, expecting to prove her superiority. Now, she had left with something far more valuable: a new perspective on humanity and a deeper respect for the strength it took to survive, to adapt, and to grow. Finally, the alien woman looked at him one last time, her eyes gleaming with quiet resolve. "I'm leaving soon," she said, "but I won't forget you, or what I learned here." The soldier nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I won't forget you either." And with that, the alien woman turned and began to walk away, her figure slowly disappearing into the distance. The soldier stood there for a moment longer, watching her go. He hadn't just defeated a warrior from another world. He had opened her eyes to something greater. And in doing so, he had changed the way both of them saw the world. It was a victory that didn't need to be celebrated with cheers or medals. It was a victory that lived in the quiet understanding between two very different people who had learned, through struggle and respect, that strength came in many forms. And sometimes, the greatest victories were the ones that changed you from the inside out. The alien woman had left the square, her footsteps echoing in the quiet of the space. The crowd was still buzzing with disbelief, some whispering excitedly about what they had just witnessed. The human soldier stood there, watching her retreating figure. He hadn't expected to walk away from the fight with her respect, but that's exactly what had happened. It felt strange to him. He hadn't won because he wanted to prove something. He had fought because he had no other choice. And now, somehow, he had earned something far more valuable than a victory. The soldier slowly turned back to the crowd. They had been watching, waiting for him to fail. But now, they were looking at him differently. Some still looked unsure, others with admiration. He could hear the whispers beginning to rise. He beat her, the alien warrior, by himself. Did you see the way he moved? He didn't back down. The soldier's heart beat a little faster, but he pushed the thoughts aside. He had just done his job, nothing more. There was no need for him to be treated like a hero. It wasn't about him. It was about what he had learned, about what they had learned. The alien woman had humbled herself, but there was something in the way she walked away that made the soldier wonder. She had left with a new understanding, but had she truly changed? He couldn't know for sure. But what he did know was that the galaxy wasn't just about strength or fighting. It was about adaptability, resilience, and the ability to learn from your mistakes. This fight had shown him that even the most powerful beings could be taught something new, and that made him realize how much humans had to offer. As the crowd dispersed, the soldier remained where he stood, his mind racing with thoughts of the fight. He didn't feel like a winner, not in the way people might think. He had simply faced an overwhelming challenge and fought until the end. There was no glory in it, but what mattered was that he had proven a point, that humanity was not weak. Humanity could stand up, adapt, and learn from every challenge. The soldier was about to leave the square when he heard footsteps approaching. He turned to find the alien woman returning, her face more composed than it had been during their fight. "You didn't have to come back," the soldier said, his voice neutral but curious. The alien woman stopped in front of him, her posture still strong, but no longer filled with the arrogance that had marked her earlier actions. "I thought about what you said," she said quietly. "You don't fight like others do. You don't rely solely on strength. I can see now that there's more to you, to your people, than I ever imagined." The soldier nodded. "You're not so different from us. You're just as capable, just as strong. But sometimes, strength isn't the answer." The alien woman's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. A rare sight. Perhaps you're right, she said, her tone thoughtful. I thought I knew everything there was to know about power. But today, you've taught me something more important. It's not always about being the strongest. It's about knowing when to fight and when to step back. The soldier nodded again, understanding. It's about understanding the situation. It's about knowing your opponent and knowing yourself. For a moment, neither of them spoke, both lost in the quiet understanding that had passed between them. The alien woman looked at him one last time, her gaze filled with a new respect. You've earned more than just victory today, she said softly. You've earned my respect, and I will remember this. With that, the alien woman turned and walked away, but this time, there was no bitterness in her steps. There was only the understanding that, while their worlds might be different, there was a common ground between them. And for the first time, she had seen humanity for what it truly was. Not weak, not inferior, but strong in ways she had never considered before. The soldier watched her leave, his heart lighter than before. He had proven something today. But it wasn't just about defeating an alien warrior. It was about showing the universe that humanity was capable of far more than anyone realized.